Yet another 300 million summer blockbuster has come, but one thing is certain, this movie makes the most of its budget, while being head and shoulders above any summer blockbuster this year. And why is that? First, Tom Cruise, arguably the only movie star whose name can allure an audience. Well, it's a long debated topic, but Cruise may have the finest case of any modern filmmaker if the definition of a movie star is giving people what they want and need. Throughout his multiple film successes, he has been working on his masterpiece. The Mission Impossible film series is that great passion. The series began as a straightforward action spy thriller based on a vintage 1960s TV show, but it has evolved into one of the few cinema series that has constantly improved over the course of its 27-year run. I think it's safe to say that this series took some time to get started, possibly 4 films, it's debatable, but with the 4th installment, Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol, Tom Cruise found the ideal creative collaborator with Chris McQuarrie, who did an uncredited rewrite on the film and has since written and directed every sequel. The 7th sequel, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, may mark the end of the narrative of Ethan Hunt and the Impossible Mission Force. Alternatively, with so many other tentpoles floundering pathetically in a technological and creative status, seeing anything that appears to have spent the whole 300 million reported budget on the screen feels like a jolt of cold pure cinema oxygen. Over the course of the 2 hours and 43 minutes, Chris McQuarrie and the rest of the cast and crew have constructed a brilliant, winding, frequently breathtaking action thriller that never lets up, while interspersingly believer human interactions and emotional beats with unrelenting action sequences. The film's high entertainment value is bolstered by the director's visceral, genuine approach to its set pieces and the star's willingness to engage in even more dangerous stunts on a regular basis. So what about the actual story? Well, the only threat that can compete with a number of nuclear weapons predicted by Fallout is artificial intelligence, what McQuarrie and co-writer Eric Jenderson call the Entity. It's a 21st century espionage HAL that engages in game theory with human government in a desperate bid to seal Pandora's box. It makes sense as a means of increasing the stakes. Everyone is currently scared of AI, with writers and actors striking not only for fair wages, but even more importantly the emergence of AI taking over responsibilities of writing. While actors fear being pushed to the side with their digital image creating ultra-realistic versions of said selves and no longer needed, let's not forget the more likely issue of Skynet's eventual emergence and eradication of humanity. It's a significant threat for the 2020s. Oh, and leave a like if that's not too much trouble, it really helps me out. While I sat and watched, I couldn't help but think this was a sort of soft reboot of the Mission Impossible franchise. There are several winks and allusions to the Brian De Palma original throughout Dead Reckoning, most notable the welcome return as CIA Director Eugene Kittredge. He takes up the character straight back up after 30 years.
It's gonna cost you dearly.
Of course, the references to Phineas Freak, Max after Fallout, and a deliberate spoof of Kittredge's famous remark,
I can understand you're very upset,
are intentional. In the scene where the CI director and Kittredge discussed the new threat, it was like they were re-cementing the rules of the franchise and letting people know that the ludicrous 60s IMF stood for International Mission Force. Fortunately, McQuarrie maintains just enough control to get through, fighting the urge to go insane with nostalgia. However, when a franchise nears its end, it looks for ways to return to the beginning and pay homage to the original. As it were, maybe Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 is aware of how popular the first film has become. Grace, played by the brilliant Hayley Atwell, and Cruise have true chemistry, and she is more closely related to Dead Reckoning's weird, almost cult-like genesis myth of the International Monetary Fund. Sorry, Impossible Mission Force. That name will never get old. It's also nice to have a modern female character with an arc, someone who is amazing at what she does, an international thief, but who is also imperfect and requires assistance to achieve her aim. You know, like a real human being. As for Rebecca Ferguson's Ilsa, it was a sad but necessary end for her character in the context of Ethan's journey. Mission Impossible won't be the same without her because she added such seriousness and strength to the previous 2 films, and to be honest, Dead Reckoning doesn't know what to do with her, relegating her to the background in favour of Grace. It allows McQuarrie to play comedy beats. There's no way Ferguson in the Atwell character could have pulled off the entire Rome scene, which is reminiscent of the Mini Cooper Paris car chase in The Bourne Identity. Ilsa, on the other hand, is conspicuously absent in this scene as the film tries to juggle the ever-expanding cast. task. Pom Klementieff is an excellent complement to the roster. She's a Harley Quinn-esque murderer, howling and laughing on her way to kill Ethan Hunt. It's a stroke of genius to cast Klementieff as a person battling like she's made of knives, especially given the entity is such a static, unphysical monster. It was also fantastic to have a henchwoman arc when Ethan saved her life. The entity knew she would betray the cause and had Gabriel try to kill her, which results in her saving Ethan. 3 female characters, 3 fulfilling real-life characters. Insane. Please keep this in mind, Disney. Speaking of Gabriel, in a nutshell, he might not make the most finest villain in my perspective. He is undeniably Bond-like, yet his almost magical ability to predict events while under the influence of the entity basically makes him an AI avatar, a human incarnation, and, to put it frankly, the polar opposite of Ethan in many aspects. However, he comes across a bit of a ghost in this. But to be honest, the action in Fallout blew me away more than anything in Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning. A close second is the action-packed train sequence in which Ethan and Grace defy gravity, but none of this compares to the base jump over Paris, the helicopter battle, or even the bicycle pursuit. There's nothing quite like it. Although the performances was enjoyable and professionally executed, the long-anticipated mountain bike leap did take my breath away for a moment, knowing this was indeed real.
Thanks, mate. I think I can hold to the bike a little longer.
Pretty much the biggest stunt in cinema history. Tom Cruise just rode a motorcycle off a cliff.
With only the CGI used to cover the ramp Tom used to ride along. But will Tom Cruise be able to top his performance in Dead Reckoning Part 2? He might be curious about how long he can survive in space by holding his breath. Yes, that's right, Tom is heading to space for a movie, though not for Dead Reckoning Part 2. So whatever exploits he and director Macquarie devise, we can be sure to expect something incredible as he continues to take down the entity. In the interim between this and a sequel that has been ingeniously set up for the end, there is a lot to appreciate, and surely considering that Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, while sometimes feeling a little convoluted, Dead Reckoning still manages to stay streamlined enough to make sense and give a clear path to what may or may not be the conclusion. Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 ends before the story is completed, as is common for Hollywood blockbusters these days, but the action pauses for a natural breather rather than a cliffhanger. Looking at you, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. But who knows where the story will go from here. But if Cruise and Macquarie can make Part 2 as enthralling as Part 1, the franchise legacy is one of the finest action series of all time, and the American version of James Bond's 007 will be secure. Well, that's enough rambling for one day.